Vivian, it's so nice to have you on the podcast. Welcome. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
I feel like I know you um, because my wife talks about you you're very
Aw,
dear to her. And
she's a
it,
sweetheart.
it's you don't have to tell me. Uh, but uh, but yeah, the reason one of the reasons that we're talking to you today is because my wife Deanna and you met in Southern California when
Mhm.
Deanna was going to Saints Peter and Paul. Are you still
Yeah,
parishioner there?
I still am 30 some years. Well, let's see, 35 years.
Wow.
I know.
Nice.
I have to tell you something about your beautiful wife. Every time I see a Sacred or Immaculate Heart, I think of her. You need to pass that message on to her.
Well, look at that.
Oh, okay. Well, I wear this one, and I think of her every time I put this bracelet on.
That's awesome. I don't know
I
if
just
you
had
can.
to share that with you.
That's awesome. Yeah, the joke is we are a walking miraculous medal now because she has a Sacred Heart of Jesus and I have the Immaculate Heart of Mary as a tattoo.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
and I have one of your prints of the Immaculate Heart of Mary right behind me.
Oh,
I don't know if we can see it, but I'll show it later. But um, and we also got like one of your prints of Saint Philomena for
St. Phil.
my niece, whose name is Philomena, and then we saw one of your actual icons at the Sacred Art Gallery in Old Town Scottsdale. So
Yes,
it's very nice
yes,
to
I had
meet
a
you
few of them.
virtually.
Yeah, yes. Nice to
But
see you. I see your wife on Facebook and I see pictures of you, so I feel like we know each other.
right, and this is Gustavo.
Hi, Gustavo.
Hi. Yeah.
So for those that don't know you and the work that you do, can you give us like a 2-minute intro of who Vivian Imbruglia is?
Well, I'm a mother and a grandmother and a wife. I'll tell you that first. But first and after all those three, you can call me an iconographer, you can call me a sacred artist, but everything I do for His glory. It's kind of like my motto of sorts. And I don't paint anything else. I mean, every once in a while, something little, but I will not commission anything else that's not sacred art or an icon. That's me. That's been my life for the last 18 years. Is
Beautiful.
little studio upstairs over there,
Mhm.
and
Nice.
I go up there every day, like everyone else goes to work, except I don't have a freeway. I just have 12 steps. I go up
That's
there.
amazing.
Yeah.
Talk about a commute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's back there. It is. There's the stairs.
There you go. Looks like actually looks like my commute.
Really close. It's nice. No freeway traffic.
know.
I love
Yeah,
it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Working
just
from home
roll
has
out
been
of the
such a
bed
blessing.
and then
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes people think it's like a crafty thing with me. It's like, no, this is my job. This
Yeah.
is what I do every single day. I try not to work Saturday and Sundays, but every single day I go up there.
That's awesome.
that's amazing. So an iconographer or a sacred artist, that's amazing. So you've always been artistic.
Yeah, I come from a large family, and because we didn't go places, we had a huge art room, and my mom would just say, "Create, create," and I painted my first mural. I think I was probably 11 or 12, and she let me paint all over our walls. I have a twin sister, and we both paint, and so we just painted all over the walls, and that's where it started. She really encouraged our creativity. And again, I think that came from just being at home and not going places. So we just were creative.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
awesome.
always have until I came upon icons.
That's
Which
awesome.
That's what it all.
I
Go
was
ahead, I'm
reading
sorry.
that story. That's a perfect segue because it was almost divine. You call it divine providence, right? That you
It,
went to this icon class. Can you talk about that
yeah.
experience?
Oh, I love this story. So it actually started a week before I took the class. Our priest had, during his homily, was talking about honor thy father and mother meant more than honoring them. It meant take care of them, spending time with them. So my mother had called me and said, I want to take an art class. That's what she called it. And she goes, it's not very far from the house, but she couldn't drive at night. So I said, sure, I'll take you. I didn't really want to because I'm busy. I'm raising kids. I'm working. But I took her, and I walked in, and there was a long table of all these women and one tiny little table off to the side. Well, that was the only seat available. That's where I sat. And the teacher brought out these images that I only knew as Christmas cards. And I thought, oh my gosh, is this what we're painting? And I was like so excited. And they prayed this prayer, and she handed me a board and said, the first image you'll paint will be an image of Christ. And while all the women sat chattering and eating and chattering and eating, I always explain it. It was like the ceiling opened up, and it was, of course it didn't. And it's like, this is what you love and this is what you'll do. I didn't tell anybody that for years, a year. But that's what it was like. I was consumed. All of a sudden I heard, these are icons, not just holy cards or holy pictures.
Okay.
And then I began studying and looking everything up I could, books, and ordering tons of books. And that's where it started, was honoring my mother and taking her to a class she couldn't drive to.
That's so cool.
So I actually, eventually, our teacher was such a beautiful teacher. She ended up wanting to retire. So I took over the class and began teaching the class.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is so cool, because I've, well, Gustavo and I, we have a shared interest for the Byzantine Catholic Church and the use of icons in the
Yes.
Divine Liturgy, because if you go to a Byzantine Catholic
Oh,
church, you'll mostly see icons instead of statues.
Correct.
What part of your study, I'm interested to know, what kind of books did you read, or who did you study to get to know more about icons?
Well, first I studied under her, and then I
Okay.
and then I don't want to say I outgrew her, but I outgrew her. So then I studied under two schools of iconography. I was the only Catholic in the class. Well, one other girl was, and we just happened to sit next to each other. And I say this with great love, because I learned a lot that day, or that week, because it was an icon camp, but they frowned on us a bit.
On Catholics?
As Catholics, right? But it's okay. It's okay, because I learned a lot. And then the second class I took was there was a Greek Orthodox and then a Catholic iconographer, and he opened the door. He opened the door. I was a teeny bit frustrated. I remember being the last day of class, and I was a teeny bit frustrated and thought, this isn't going to be for me then. It was very rigid. And he came to me at the end of the class, and he said, you need to keep doing this. You need to keep doing this. There was a lot of noise in the class, and I like to work in somewhat of silence, and which is really important. And I'd love to talk to you about the prepping of it, everything, in a little bit whenever you're ready. But so he gave me that little boost, and also made me feel like it's okay that I was Catholic and I was writing these icons, because it was frowned upon in the previous class. So that opened the door, saying it's okay. And then my style, because I know what you're talking about, the Byzantine icons, they're beautiful. And I painted many Byzantine and then Western style. It depends on what the client asks me for. But I tend to lean a little bit more on the Western, but I create them in the same style that a Greek Orthodox might. Very prayerful, which is, I think, is the most important thing. It's the most important thing.
Yeah. Okay. So there's several things to unpack there that you just mentioned. So first question that comes to mind is, why do we say that an iconographer writes an icon versus painting an icon?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that ask that question. And I when I took the class, we just always said write. It's just what we did. And I'm gonna be very upfront. I'm not a theologian, but I will tell you what they taught me. But okay, so what my teacher taught me, and what I've always gone with, is we're writing scripture. It's nothing we made up. These are not stories that we made up. It is scripture. So I can't go in and change the story of John the Baptist to suit me in the icon I'm writing. I have to write it true. It,
Okay.
it needs to be true to scripture. Now, some people there's you'll read a lot of articles where you'll even hear orthodox say no, it's not writing, it's not writing. Then you hear no, it's writing. There's so much controversy out there about it. It's a little bit scary. I used to have one site I would follow on Instagram and Facebook, and the fights these people would get into. I go, wait a minute, we're talking about sacred images. Why is everybody so mean and fighting? And I kind of just stopped following them because it got ugly. So I still
So there's
say
a big
right.
divide.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
And the bottom line is that if it's created in prayer in the proper way,
Who
what
cares?
difference? But
cares?
who cares? But I'm used to saying right. Every once in a while, I'll slip up if I was giving a talk somewhere, and I might use the word right and explain why we do it. And then I'll accidentally say paint, and someone will go, "You said paint." Yeah, I did say paint. It's okay. We know what we're talking about here.
Relax.
Relax.
Okay, because the way that sacred art evolved, I mean, you see it from like the from the catacombs, right? Like the engravings on the walls, that you have like the image of the pelican, right? There was like this imagery of Jesus,
Right.
The pelican giving its blood to
I love
for
that
their
symbol.
children to there's so many things that we could talk about that, but mostly the audience for those types of so they were illiterate, so they didn't know how to read, so
Right.
imagery would tell the story, and they were used for like catechesis aids, I guess. Can you what have you I mean, maybe we can like slide into like the preparation of the process, because you just said that you cannot change the story of John the Baptist to suit the writing of the icon. Okay.
I'll go back to what you were talking about as far as the imagery. That symbols are the most important to me, the most important part of an icon next to the eyes, and that's just my own personal thought. But symbols tell the story. As you said, there was a time when people spoke all types of different languages, and this is how they told the stories. Not too long ago, it was the year of Mercy. It was a huge icon I did. In fact, I think that's the one that's hanging at the Sacred Art Gallery. So I wrote this icon, and everything told a story. And there was a priest not too far from here who was teaching about the Year of Mercy and used that icon because everyone spoke Spanish. And so he used all the symbols to tell this story, which I just thought that's the perfect example of how no words were necessary. All the symbols told the story. Just beautiful. Awesome. I'm sorry I segued into that, but I just thought I love that you recognize that. So symbols are important, which is why research is so important. Exactly. You put the wrong symbol in and you're telling the wrong story. But you started to ask me a question. I'm sorry. I got excited and I interrupted you.
No. This is perfectly fine. And we try to keep this like there's no, we don't have like, we're more like fast and loose kind of conversation. Gustavo, I've been hogging the questions
I'm enjoying a lot. I'm really interested to learn about the process because it's really
important.
Yeah, like you, I was a artistic kid growing up, but I never kept it up. I still know how to draw, but it's not something it's not my passion. Basically,
okay.
I'm a designer that's my career. So I got more into the computer side of art and design and all that stuff. So when I see art created by hand like this, I'm just like amazed. So talk to us a little bit about what the process is like for you.
It's beautiful. And let me tell you what I tell all my students. Sometimes they'll say, I want to do this, but I can't because I don't paint. And I said, yay, I'd rather have a student that can't paint than one who's an accomplished artist.
Yeah.
Because with an icon, it comes from your heart. It comes with prayer. But as far as the actual steps that take place, the very first thing, like just recently, I just wrote an icon of newly sainted Michael McGivney. I don't know if you know who he is. Yep. He's the one who started the Knights of Columbus. Okay. Yep. So I had to learn about him. So I had to read everything I could on him to develop what were going to be the symbols. So the first thing that you do is research. And then I take this image that I have in my mind and I go before the Blessed Sacrament and I pray about it. Is this the right? I can't do this on my own. It's all guided by the Holy Spirit. You become too arrogant if you think I've got this. Yeah. So when I feel, and sometimes I refer to someone, a priest who might be more knowledgeable about a particular saint or whatever. So I'll like a Saint Norbert. I went to a Norbertine priest to talk to him about Saint Norbert. So I always go to someone higher up if I'm a little bit worried about it. And then there's board preparation. So an icon is not written on a canvas. It's written on a type of wood, and not any wood. I usually use a poplar or a birch panel. Okay. And then there's a piece of white linen. And by the way, all this is symbolic. So the wood is actually symbolic. Some will say of the tree of life or an altar, which is so beautiful. A piece of white linen is laid down, which represents or can be symbolic of the shroud or an altar cloth. And it's laid down with rabbit glue. And then there are 10 layers of marble gesso, beautiful white, pure marble gesso. Personally, I always think of a pure soul, someone who's been to confession. That may not be true, but that's what I personally think. So it's this beautiful, clean palette I'm beginning to work on. And then the image, I prepare to put the image down. The image can be just transferred onto the board, and then I etch it with an etching tool. That etch will always be there, similar to the wounds of Christ. Again, that's my take on it, whether it's anybody else's. Correct. But then there's the most beautiful prayer that is prayed, which is so important before you actually begin, or actually each day. And I won't read the whole prayer to you, but it starts off, with, it goes, "O divine Lord of all that exists, you have illuminated the apostle and evangelist Luke with your Holy Spirit." Luke is the patron saint of artists, so we're calling upon him. So beautiful. And then it says, of course, I'm not in my room. I think in my room it says, "The grace of him who has been born of me is spread throughout the world." This is the best part. "Enlighten and direct my soul, my heart, and my spirit." Then it says, "Guide the hands of your unworthy servant." We're unworthy to paint an image of Christ, and we're admitting it. We're admitting that we're unworthy of it. So we're asking for guidance. And then it says, "So that we may worthily and perfectly portray this icon of your Holy Mother, the saints, for the glory and adornment of your holy church." This is so important to do. Then we ask for forgiveness. We say, "Forgive our sins and the sins of those who will venerate these icons." So we're asking him to even forgive the sins of those who are venerating the icon. Wow. And then, and all those who are standing before it. Anyways, it's the most beautiful prayer. So prayer is incredibly, incredibly important when beginning. This is why it's not like regular art. It's not art. I don't even call it art. I call it a prayer. When you're done with an icon, it is a prayer. Now, depending on the image I'm working on, like let's say Father McGivney. When I began that one, I usually will pray a rosary or something while I'm working. But with Father McGivney, I listened to his stories because I wanted him with me. I had a holy card. My spiritual director had sent me a holy card from his canonization, so I kept that with me. So if it was Mother Teresa, I would have had something of Mother Teresa's, or listened to her story, or prayed her novena. So I try to bring the saint as close as I can to me. I kind of shut out the world. I don't watch TV unless I'm listening to a movie on the saint, and I'm listening, not watching, or I'll listen to sacred music. Gregorian is my favorite. I'll have something playing in the back. And most importantly, when I begin incense, my husband will come home and say, "Wow, you had a great work day," because the house is just thick with incense. And I always tell I had a friend come over the other day, and I'd been working, of course, all week, and it was really strong. And he walked in and goes, "What have you guys been doing?" I go, "It's my incense from my studio." But it's the most beautiful smell. It just awakens all your senses. So it's a very, very, very prayerful process. Um, that's in short how you prepare
That's
in
beautiful.
in
Wow, that's
in
yeah.
writing it. But and then it's and this is kind of a little bit more, but when you're writing this image, painting the image, it's important that you follow rules, and the rules are colors.
Okay.
I can't decide. I actually had a student once, was a student, and she said, I'm going to paint the Blessed Mother pink with some flowers because I want it to match my wallpaper. And it was like, no, no, no. But it was, she wasn't thinking, this is a prayer, and we have rules that we need to follow. And so Our Lady, we always see her in the royal colors and blues and reds. And so blue is the color of royalty along with purple. Red, we see Christ in that. That's the color of love and passion and sacrifice. So he is usually in those tones. The gold on the icon, this is really important. Most of my icons all have gold on them. It doesn't make it a better icon because it's gold, but I only use real gold. And I can tell you, nothing upsets me more when I see somebody posting something and they're using fake gold, because I can tell fake gold. And if you can't afford to use real gold, it's okay. You use yellow ochre, which is a yellow color. It doesn't make it less of an icon, but don't try to fool anybody. That's my I
That's
get
your pet peeve about iconographers.
you just can't try to pass that off. White is the color of divine light. So usually Christ is painted in white, or his mother, and then black is death or evil. So sometimes you have to use those colors. But so there are rules that you follow as far as the colors. You just don't do it because somebody says, I really want to, St. Joseph in orange, or I don't know, orange is actually okay to use, but you just can't do it to suit the person. I always
I'm
try
sorry.
to,
It's a little bit
educate
like
them.
the liturgy, right? I mean, we want to make sure
Yes,
that we're worshiping worthily and correctly. And
right.
just to hear the whole process and how prayerful it is, and for the icon itself to become a prayer, it's beautiful, by the way, that you pray for the people that are going to be receiving the icon. I think that is
It's
so intentional on your part, and you make people part of your process too, because
right.
it's not devoid of personal touch, because it's your personal touch. The icon itself is touching the family or the person that receives it, and obviously they're enveloped in beauty with the icon,
Mm-hmm.
and in beauty because of the specific saint. So I think it's just wonderful that your process includes praying for the recipient. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, totally, in terms of following the rules, that is for the benefit of the overall, how you receive it, as a prayer, as you venerate it, as you see it, as you pray with it. Yeah, I would definitely not have the same effect if it was like pink with flowers and matching
Right,
the
right, right, right. You know, it's so beautiful. And I'm going to go back to when I would have students who said they couldn't paint, but when they went through the process with great prayer and this beautiful devotion to the image they were painting, when they finished, I remember one student in particular. She would cry when she looked at her image.
Hmm.
Now, somebody off the streets might look and go, "Well, it's a little bit crooked. It looks a little." They weren't looking at it like a prayer, but because she created it with her heart and with prayer, it was beautiful,
Hmm.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm,
It's really
so good.
it's so gratifying when I see when someone would finish. And then dumb COVID came along and we stopped our classes, but it would be
Oh
so,
boy,
so beautiful. We're going to start up again in September, but
that's good to hear.
yeah, but it is just so beautiful to see all the images that have been created by people who have never picked up a paintbrush.
That's awesome.
It's
Well,
really, yeah.
that gives me hope. Uh,
You just
you
have to have
mentioned
it right here.
it's not for lack of try, I should say. Um, it's always something that I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned earlier there's that you do more Western style
Yeah.
icons versus Eastern or Orthodox style. What would be like the main difference between the two styles?
You know, it's the look in the faces for me, and whether this is correct or
Okay.
not. And it's nothing that I did on purpose. It kept happening, and I would try to go to the more stark looking face.
Okay.
It still has the characteristics of an icon with the longer nose and bigger ears and the small mouths, and but it just kept happening. And then I thought, you know, I keep asking God to guide my hands, so I can only guess this is what I'm supposed to do. And it's okay. It's still a very prayerful piece, and many of my clients that have come that commission pieces, you know, they'll say, these yours are speaking to me. So maybe God guided them this way for a reason. I don't know. I know that they are frowned upon sometimes by those who are more
Orthodox.
Yes. I'm a very Orthodox Catholic though, but so, and that's okay. I don't care anymore. Another gentleman who writes the most beautiful Byzantine icons, he said, it's how you're guided. Don't fight it anymore. Because he was really wonderful as far as asking questions. Why, you know, he goes, just don't fight it. So I don't. So I would say with my Western style, the faces are a little bit softer.
Okay.
The eyes are as I told you, I think the eyes are my favorite part of the icon, because when I'm working on the eyes, it's like I almost stop and I go, okay, Lord, whoever needs to be drawn into this devotion or this image, let them see through these eyes. And then I start very carefully, we'll start painting the eyes. So for me, the eyes are the soul of the icon. It might draw Gustavo in, but maybe not you. So you never know. It's who God wants to be drawn into that image.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's funny that you mentioned the eyes. It seems like a good segue for the question that I had. So I was reading about the Christ Pantokrator icon. So this was used to explain the concept of hypostatic union. Is it Gustavo? The hypostatic union keeps coming up in the podcast for whatever reason. So Jesus is fully human, fully divine. And then I saw like this blog post that it cut the icon in half,
right,
and then mirrors both halves. So like let me get it right. The left side represents Jesus' humanity, and the right side represents his divinity.
Right.
So like if you see it, the left side looks like a very human, like more soft kind of face, and the right side is like a more stern, like the eyes are look like kind of angry almost. And you mentioned about the importance of the eyes and the nose. Like, can you talk about like the rubrics or like the rules about the eyes and the nose when?
Well, you know what I want. I want to tell you something really quick about the Christ Pantokrator that you talked about. So, I actually painted that image early in my career, and it went to a priest. But it's a favorite. So that one that one looks like the original. I mean, I worked to make it look like that one. I didn't go with any Western face or anything. But I remember my husband and I are in diaconate formation, and one of our teachers, she started talking about icons, and she didn't know that I'd written icons before. And she says she has a big picture. She goes, "This is my favorite image of Jesus. I don't know why, but I love it." And I said, "I know." And she's like, "Why?" And I said, so I go up to the class, and I stay quiet in class, but I took the image and I took a piece of paper and I go, "Look at this side." And she's like, "Yeah." I said, "It's this beautiful forgiving. It's Jesus showing his mercy." And she's like, "Oh yeah." And then I covered the other side and I said, "Now he's judging us." And she's like, "Oh." She goes, "This is why I love it." I said, "It is the most interesting, beautiful icon. It is just so if anybody has the opportunity, cover one side, cover the other side. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful."
Yeah.
I saw the post or an Instagram video on what you're talking about, where you take this side and you mirror it, and it's a completely different Jesus, and you do the other side, and it's so amazing.
That's
but
awesome.
You started to ask me about noses and eyes and ears. Yes. I'm sorry, I get all crazy and excited.
No, it's all good.
So there are rules, and so the eyes in icons are always bigger. And if you think about it, they have seen the face of Christ. When we see the face of Christ, they're going to be huge. Our eyes are going to be huge. Long noses are a sign of nobility. So you always notice the noses are longer. The ears are large because when we go to heaven, there's no need to speak, only to listen. We're going to hear. Yeah, there you're
That's good. Just makes me good about having big ears.
You're all
I'm
set.
a walking icon.
Yeah, and your face is not that symmetrical either. So you're like two
Hey,
thumbs
now.
up.
Okay. Shots fired.
Mine isn't either, so maybe we're halfway there. So the ears are larger because we're listening to the word of God. We're there, so and the mouths are small because there's no need to speak, only to listen.
Wow.
So those are these, like when sometimes people say, well, I don't like icons because they look weird. Well, then when I tell them why they look this way, they're like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. So it's just understanding and knowing. And then all of a sudden you see true beauty in them.
That is so fascinating.
Wow. It's all the symbolism.
I know. It's crazy.
And then they're supposed to like draw you to prayer when you contemplate them, right? So like we have so many around the house. This is like what we're trying to have like all these holy images that when people come into our home, they're like, I wonder if they're Catholic.
Yeah, I know.
So you have written hundreds of icons.
Yeah.
And some of them have gone to homes. Some of them have gone to parishes. But some of them have gone to the Vatican.
Yeah.
So can you talk about like the ones that have gone to the Vatican? I think you have one at St. John Cantius in Chicago.
Yeah, actually, it was at St. John Cantius for a year, and it went over to Divine Mercy Shrine in I'm going
Wisconsin.
blank. No, okay, wait. It's the Marian priests, Father. Okay, wait.
Oh, Father, the one that does the Sermon of Spirits,
like Father Alder's there, Father Gately, Father. It's their order.
Oh yeah. I forgot the name of.
So, anyways, it's there now. It's moved over there, and that was the Purgatory. I called it the Purgatory icon. So it was at St. John. It was, and the reason the way that one got to St. John Cantius is I wrote that for a book cover, and it was the icon was to give all the symbolisms of Purgatory, which was an amazing icon for me to do because at the time I was so fascinated with Purgatory. So it's a fun icon. So anyway, the writer of this book, she was called the Purgatory Lady. that was her parish. I know. She's written a lot of books on Purgatory. So she went to them and said, would you like this? And they said, yeah. So it stayed there for 1 year. I don't know what happened, but then I think she knows the priests over, and she said, Father Seraphin, who's no longer with us, he had a huge devotion to Purgatory and all the holy souls. And so she asked, would you like it? And he said, yes. So it now hangs there.
Oh, nice.
But as far as the Vatican goes, are we good on time or?
Yeah, you're good.
No, you're perfect.
Okay. So there's two stories. So the first icon, there was a group of friends who were going to Medjugorje actually. And I couldn't go. I mean, I'm an artist now. I'm, starting artist. I can't just hop on a plane and go to. So a friend of mine said, you know what, I want to gift you this trip. We're going to go. And there was about 6 or 7 women. And it's like, okay. And so I'm, trying to prepare for this trip. And it came to me, you need to paint her an icon in Thanksgiving for this trip. Because then they added we were going to go to Rome as well, because they go, well, Viv's going to Rome. She's got to see everything in Rome so we went for 3 days. So I'm quietly thinking, I told my husband, I'm going to paint this image and give it as a gift because you have no time. You're leaving. You've got all this work you've got to finish. And it's like, no, I in my heart, I feel like it's going to be an image of St. Francis because we had Pope Francis, and I thought this will be perfect. I'm going to give her this image. So I'm working on this image, and she calls me and she says, Vivian, during my prayer time today, I was praying the rosary, God said, you need to have Vivian paint an icon of St. Francis, and you need to take it and give it to the Pope. And she calls me and she's telling me this, and I'm like going, she's a beautiful, prayerful woman, the most beautiful, prayerful woman, Nanette. And she says, and I'm like going, oh my gosh, Nanette, you're not going to believe this. She goes, what? So I text her a picture and I go, I'm painting an image of him. She said, why? And I said, well, I wanted to gift it to you. She goes, oh no, it's not for me. It's for the Pope. That's what the Holy Spirit. And I was like, well, okay. She goes, but wait, there's more. She says, all of us have to on going on pilgrimage need to paint a little something on it. And I go, okay, we can do that. And then she said, and then we're going to give it to the Pope. And I'm like going, yeah, right. I was planning on giving it to her, but and I said, but okay, whatever. So they come to my house, they all do it. It's only 12 by 12 because it has to fit in my backpack. So we our priest gives us a blessing before we go. He hooks us up with a priest who tours us around. We tell him what we want to do. He tells us what time we need to get to the general audience. Now, have you ever been to a general audience?
Yes.
There's 100 million people there.
There's a lot of people there.
There's a lot of people. It's not 100 million, but there's a lot of people. Well, my friend who's in a cast, we're all there. We get split up and we're phoning each other. And one of them says, you won't believe this, I'm up front. So she's 17 rows up front. We make our way over there. And she's saving a seat for us. I mean, it's crazy. She's saving a seat for us. And she says, this man is sitting there and he won't get up. And she says, this is just like, go. And I believe they were speaking Vietnamese because one of the girls who was with us speaks Vietnamese. So she's yelling at him to get off. No. Well, all of a sudden security comes over and we're like, oh my gosh. And so it's a guy.
You're gonna get kicked out.
Yeah, this guy has this, the little thing in his mouth.
Microphone.
It looks like Secret Service, and he's bringing something and calling people over. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're getting kicked out of the general audience. And my little friend Gloria, she's really small, and she looks up to the security guy. And she's, excuse me. And he says, what? He goes, we have an icon for the Pope. And he's, what? And he doesn't speak good English. What? She goes, we have an icon for the Pope. And he goes, and I'm standing here watching all this, and she goes, show it to you. He goes, let me see. So I pull it out of my backpack. Now the guards, the Swiss guards come over. Oh. We've got 2 Swiss guards. We have Secret Service, and we have a woman, and they're examining it like, it's a bomb or something. And he goes, and he's like this to me. He's like this, where, address. And I'm thinking, what? And name. And I'm like, what? I don't know. And I'm just kind of like, so I'm writing my name and my address on it, and they take it. And my friend Gloria has this, smart enough in all the commotion. I'm standing there, the one who doesn't mind talking. I'm just standing there dumbfounded. And I'm watching the one guard give it to another guard, and we're watching him, and it's going up the steps to the Vatican inside, and the gate shut. And then Nanette, the beautiful, prayerful one, says, I told you this was for the Pope. And it was like, so, okay, everybody laughed and said, oh yeah, whatever, So about almost a year to the date that we were there, I got a letter from the Pope, and it's signed, and it's beautiful, and I have it framed, and it's just thanking me for the image. So, and still people said, oh yeah, right, whatever, he never, whatever. So then an article comes out. My husband loves to tell this story. This is the first time I'm ever telling this story. An article comes out. It was the first interview with Pope Francis, and it talks about how simple his office was, that all that was in there was a statue of the Blessed Mother, a small icon of St. Francis, and I forget what else. Whether it was mine or not, I don't know, but it was a great story. So that was the first icon. The second icon's a lot quicker story, and I'll tell you it really fast. One of my clients, I had already written one icon for them, 2 icons for them, and they called me and they said, we have a private audience with the Pope, and we want to gift him an icon of someone he just canonized, and he canonized him on his birthday, which was Peter Faber. And so, oh my gosh, she goes, are you up for the job? It's like, are you kidding me? So anyways, I wrote the icon. They had the private audience with them. They were so lovely in sending me updated pictures throughout the entire day. And when they gave it to him, Pope Francis starts to bless it. And they said, no, this is for you. And he goes, oh, and then he said, in Italian. And the translator said, he loves it. This is his saint or something, because he canonized him on his own birthday, similar as being a birthday gift. Mm-hmm. So that was the second one. So I do have that picture on my website because it was just a beautiful story. So Those are the
That
two
is
that are in
We'll
the
have to
back.
put those on Instagram. Those are
Yeah.
so
That
So it
cool
was a cool
stories.
story.
fun.
Okay, let's just add a third one because I know that you wrote a Blessed Solanus Casey
Yes.
icon, and it how did you? It was a commission.
It was a commission.
Piece.
It was a commission. A young man. I should say young man. I don't know how old he was, but it was a young man who had a great devotion to him. His aunt had actually known Solanus Casey.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he actually said. So I studied him. He told me all the symbols that he wanted, and if you look closely at that icon, there's a little bee in his sleeve. I don't know if you looked at that.
Yeah.
So the story.
No, we know that story.
Oh, okay. So you know the symbol. So the
We've
story
told it
is
here.
that. Oh, okay.
Go
So
ahead,
I don't
go
need to
ahead.
tell it. Okay.
No, go ahead,
okay.
please. I love your
So, and
storytelling too. So go ahead.
So correct me if I
Yeah.
say it wrong, but as I remember, because that was a long time ago. As I remember, he was visiting his fellow Franciscans, and there was a commotion at the beehive, and so Solanus Casey just put his hand in there and knew that there were two queen bees. He pulls one out, says, "Find a home for her," and it is just a beautiful, simple story. But so the bee was in there to be able to tell this story.
That's amazing.
And the keys, he has keys because people thought they referred to him as being dumb. And so he wasn't even allowed to do the regular jobs of a priest. He had the keys to the church to let people in and lock up the church. But many people were drawn to the church because of him. And so he has the keys, and then he's holding the church in his hands. That's the same church that the aunt of my client went to, which was, I believe, in Detroit. So
Saint Bonaventure must have been.
I think so. It's been a long time. I'd have to look.
Okay.
I'd have to look. I keep notes on them, But yeah, that was a beautiful story. Beautiful. There's so many. I love my job because there's so many beautiful saints and stories.
Yeah.
It's. You can see I get happy with
It's
it.
beautiful. Yeah.
No, it's contagious. I love it.
Totally.
I can tell you stories all day long about the saints.
It makes for great content and podcasts. Let me tell you. Okay, so you started saying that you do everything for the greater glory of God,
right?
And I know that you hide AMDG in every icon that you write.
Yes.
Do you give prizes for people that find those letters?
You know, it's funny. Sometimes they'll ask me, "Where is it?" I go, "I forgot." I put them in every single icon. And it started. A gentleman. Do I have time for one fast story?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's this gentleman. I was painting the Stations of the Cross. These were painting. They were big tiles. Stations of the Cross. They were going into our hall, and I was working all summer on those. And this little gentleman walks in, and he's, one of those guys that have been at the church since it was built. And he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm painting the Stations of the Cross." He goes, "No." And he's pointing his finger. "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm painting the Stations of the Cross." He goes, "No." What? He goes, he says, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, "Well, the church wants stations and we're going to raise some money." "No, why are you doing this?" And I said, "For him?" He goes, "Yes." He goes, "Everything," and I'm not kidding you. He says, "Everything you do for his glory." He said, "When I was in school, if we did not write AMDG at the top of our paper, it was thrown away. So everything you do for his glory." Well, it was so funny. The night before that, I told my husband, we're painting these big stations. And I said, I could hide something in these and nobody would ever know. And they're up there forever. And I thought AMDG. So that was the first time. And it was pretty bold in a little red square. I put it on every single icon. And people go, "What's that AMDG?" And then I could tell them, no matter what you do, whether you're a nurse, you're a teacher, you do it for his glory. So I ended up having a ring made, and it's AMDG. This is my painting hand. I've worn this bracelet. Oh, it's all hidden here. Another one, AMDG. It is what, if I was doing this for myself, if I was doing it for a paycheck, if I was doing it for whatever, I wouldn't be doing it. Mm-hmm. It has to be done for his glory. I can only believe that's why he has blessed me with so many beautiful images of his saints and angels and his mama. So I do hide it. I don't sign them. In the back, I'll write maybe written by the hand of Vivian in small letters, but never the front. It would be, God knows who wrote that icon. Nobody else needs to know. Doesn't matter.
That's beautiful.
And that's when you know it's not a real icon, when you see somebody write their name on
the front. Well, thank you so much. This has been such an amazing conversation, Vivian. It was a hood. Where can people find you?
Well, I do have a website, but it's being rebuilt, so it'll be up in about 3 more weeks. I'm hoping, actually, 2 to 3
Okay.
weeks. But it's Sacred Image Icons. I have an Etsy site, so I sell a lot of my prints there because not everybody can afford an actual icon, but the prints are beautiful. They're museum quality, so I do sell on Etsy, and that's also under Sacred Image Icons or Vivian Imbruglia. It is my hit. I feel like every home needs, and you have them, but needs to have these images. People need to walk in your home and go, "Oh my gosh, they're Catholic. I should genuflect." So I try to make them personal, and there are times people can't afford them, and then I do what I can to give them one. That I feel very strongly. I feel very, very strongly about that.
That's beautiful.
So
That's amazing.
yeah.
And on Instagram,
Instagram,
sacred.
it's sacred_image_icons. Yeah, somebody else went after I did this and did Sacred Image Icons, and they're not. It's so mine's sacred_image_.
Get it right, people.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Thanks again so
You're
much
so
for your
welcome.
time.
Thank you. I love sharing. So thank you for allowing me to share with you. It was fun.
Yeah. And for everybody else, go to direct.me/Whatabatus for more information about the podcast, and we'll see you next week.